Okay, so today I want to talk about elderly protecting themselves, even maybe some self-defense. But in particular, I just want to say that we have, as elder people, I'm 60 years old. I know I'm not as old as some of you, but I'm definitely older than some of you. And I feel a whole lot older than I did when I was 30. So one of the things that we have going for us is wisdom. That nobody's going to take that away. So the best way to defend yourself is to stay out of trouble. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to just assess your baseline. And when I say that, what I'm talking about is everything around you either fits or it doesn't in any particular place. If I'm in Walmart's parking lot, for instance, I expect people to be walking back and forth. I expect some people to be sitting in some cars somewhere. I expect to see the people pushing the carts together and taking them into the store. So if there's somebody or something that does not fit, I'm going to avoid that area. Even if I have to walk to my car, if I have to walk around a little bit, walk up another aisle to get to my car, I'm going to do that. So if you do that in every situation, and you do to some degree because, you know, you're driving cars, you've been driving your whole lives, you've lived, and you're not dead yet. So you obviously can detect when something's wrong. You can pull off the side of the road when it looks like an accident is going to come your way. It's the same thing with people. If somebody doesn't meet the baseline, if they don't belong there, or they're not acting the way everybody else is, there might be something wrong. There might not be something wrong. It doesn't make any difference to us. We want to stay out of trouble. So assess your baseline. And in the military, when we were on a patrol, we would do security stops. And we did something called SILS, and that's stop, look, listen, and smell. That's another way of saying we're assessing the baseline. We're looking around for things that don't fit. A good example of this was the gun barrel sticking out of a fence line at the golf course where President Trump was. The Secret Service guy saw a barrel. He saw something that didn't meet the baseline, and he took action, and a crisis was averted. You can always do this, and you should be doing this all the time. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is giving away your information. Your information is precious. You should keep it to yourself. So let's say, for example, you're checking people out at a grocery store or a Walmart or whatever. And somebody's in line, and you don't know these people. You might have seen them before in line, probably have. But all of a sudden they ask you, wow, are you going to get to enjoy any of this beautiful day today? And then you might answer, because you don't want the silence, and you don't want to be rude, you might answer, no, man, I'm working here till 11. Well, in the first place, the person didn't even ask you that. He asked you, are you going to get to enjoy any of this beautiful day? Okay, in first place, it's none of his business. I've done this. I've done this to checkout girls repeatedly at Walmart as an exercise to teach my daughters about their own private information. And the first time I did it, my daughters, as we walked out of the store, said, how did you get her to tell you all that? All I did was ask one question, and that question was never answered. But everything else about this person was. I found out from some of them what kind of car they drive, and that they're upgrading their cars soon, and what time they get off and what time they start work. Okay, I got to tell you, 11 o'clock at night at Walmart, you don't want to be walking out to your car alone after you just told somebody that you're going to be walking out to your car at 11 o'clock at night. And you don't have to be young. If you're older, you might be more trusting. You might think, oh, that person doesn't want to hurt me. Well, these people, in the first place, anybody that's going to hurt anybody is a bad person. They're nasty. And you never know. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is your fitness. Stay as fit as you can for as long as you can. So if that means parking in the back of the parking lot and walking to the store instead of parking up front as far as you can, do that. If it means taking a walk every day, everybody has their own level of fitness. Some people are 75 years old and still running marathons. I am not one of them. I'm 60 and I'm not running a marathon. I do spend an awful lot of time in the woods doing bushcraft and things of that nature. But, everybody's not there. Everybody has their own fitness and their own limitations. So stay as fit as you can. Stay as agile as you can. So make sure that you can, maybe if you're still at that level, maybe you can take 5 steps running or moving side to side, moving up and down, move your arms like this so that you can guard from somebody trying to hit you. Now, in many places, you're not going to be able to carry things to protect yourself. Now, I can guarantee you I can. I live in Missouri, and I'm allowed to carry guns and batons and knives and just about anything I want. Everybody's not there. Some people live in places where that's more restrictive. Find out what you're allowed to carry in your area. And it may very well be just your cane or a walking stick or something like that you could actually just make space for yourself, which is important. You just make space. Swinging a cane can be effective. All you're doing is making space. You're making a fuss. You're making others aware that you may need help. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world where people don't like to get involved. So you may have to do this on your own. But, do whatever you can to keep making space between you and your adversary. And that's important. So, things that you're carrying that are not necessarily weapons. When I'm walking to the car, and I've done this forever. I mean, heck, when I was young and able to fight and everything else, I carried, if I'm not carrying a gun on my strong side, I'm left-handed, my keys were out and they were in my left hand, like this. This is a weapon. So you've got that. Do not unlock all of your doors at the same time. Now I know that when you stick this key in a door, or you have a remote and you click it twice, it'll unlock all the doors. You don't want to do that. We want to keep some area denial. So that means to deny others the opportunity to enter a space that we own, that we control and we should control, like our car. If you only unlock the door that's necessary at that time, you still have some level of denial for other people that don't belong in that car. So I'm not a big fan of all the locks opening at the same time, but I know the cars do it and I know we get in the habit of doing it. Well, get out of that habit. Unlock the door that you need to unlock, get in, and then lock the door immediately. Deny anybody else entry into your vehicle that doesn't belong there. So, if you can carry, that's great. Carry. But don't be looking for trouble. Just because you're carrying a gun or you're carrying a case or you're carrying a collapsible baton like this, that doesn't mean you have to look for an opportunity to use it. I see all the time people, all of a sudden, they get a gun and they see trouble around every corner. I'm telling you, it's not. You can live a relatively peaceful life. Just be ready for the not peaceful life when it happens. So, avoid being a show-off or looking for trouble. However, do not look like a victim. Don't walk out in the parking lot with your hands in your pockets and looking down at the ground or anything like that. Keep your head on a swivel. Look like a predator. when you're walking to your car or whatever the case, look around you. Be assessing the area, assess the baseline everywhere you're at, and look for that trouble, and avoid it. You see the trouble? Oh, it's over there. Well, okay. I'm just going to nonchalantly walk over to the next row over and move up to my car, and then I'm going to come over. That way I'm not in the line of fire for, and I guess I shouldn't say fire, but I'm not putting myself in trouble in an area or a place where there's going to be trouble. Like I said, I'm 60 years old. I'm a disabled veteran. I've got back problems. I've got knee problems. I'm not a guy that's going to want to get in a fist fight, and I certainly don't want to have to shoot anybody. Honestly, I have a rule about deploying my firearm, and it is very simple. If it's not worth dying for, and that means if I wouldn't give it to somebody if they had a gun to my head, I'm not going to kill them for it. I'm going to give it to them. If somebody's robbing me and that's what they want, I'm going to give it to them. However, nobody in my life is not worth dying for. So I will take action in that regard. And I think that's just a sane way to look at it. So, got black walnuts falling everywhere. I'm going to have to go get some. So keep yourself fit, keep yourself agile, be self-aware. Use your wisdom. It's what you have. It's what you're going to keep getting as you get older and older and older. It's what the bad guys that are younger do not have. They might have physical prowess, they might have strength, they might have endurance on you, but they don't have your wisdom. And, if you don't look like a victim, you're a lot less likely to become a victim. Okay, that's all I got for now, and we'll do another one of these later. Because I want to talk about more non-lethal weapons and more things that you can carry to defend yourself. So stay safe, everybody. Welcome back. Today I'm going to share with you 3 crucial tips that'll keep seniors, and really pretty much anybody, out of harm's way. So first, what I've noticed lately is that I've seen elderly couples at parking lots where the man is assisting the female getting the groceries out of the cart and putting them into the trunk, with both of them facing the trunk and not facing any potential danger, anybody coming up to them from behind. We've seen this, and my wife has noticed it. I've noticed it, and we both think that this is a very dangerous thing. One person, preferably the man, should be turning the other way, and he can face away and grab bags out of the cart and hand them over to his wife, who will then place them into the trunk. That works. So this is a problem. Now I'm going to, as an example, one thing that I saw at the beginning of the pandemic, toilet paper was pretty short, as some of you probably remember. And I was at Walmart, and in the front of the parking lot, actually, she was parked in a handicap space. I was parked out where I normally park, but she was putting her stuff into the trunk, and this, it was a man. He grabbed her toilet paper as she was doing whatever, putting things in the trunk, and he snatched it, and she started screaming. I started heading up. Most people did nothing. Most people just looked over at her like she was crazy, and then got in their car and left. As I was coming up, one of the big giant cart guys, looked like a high school football kid, went over and grabbed the toilet paper from him, gave it to her, and took care of business. So every once in a while, you'll find somebody that will help, but I think for the most part, we live in a time when that's going to be at a premium. It's just not, it's not the norm. I'd also like to mention that my wife one time was actually mugged in Walmart before she met me in Walmart's parking lot, also parked up toward the front. Of course, this was at night, which is different, whole different set of risks. And while she was kicking the snot out of this guy's knees and knocking him on the ground, my wife is pretty athletic and physical, she was screaming. She was screaming at the top of her lungs. And, you know, just nobody did anything. People just got in their cars and left. When she went into the store, the mugging was unsuccessful. But when she got into the store and told the security guards what had happened, they were acting somewhat annoyed and said, "Oh, was that you screaming?" Well, this is the thing. The security guards at Walmart or any grocery store, they're not there for you. They're not there to protect you. I'm not saying that they won't, but I'm saying that they're paid to take care of Walmart. They're going to protect Walmart and its infrastructure and its inventory. So that's two stories that deal with the front of the parking lot at Walmart. So when we get on later down in the video series, when I give my parking lot series, you're going to notice that I park in the back of the parking lot. There's a reason for that. And I kind of just gave you a hint as to why. Okay, second, know the surrounding buildings and stores and the buildings that surround your stores. One of our grocery stores, in fact, both of our grocery stores, I live in a small community, but both of our grocery stores have banks. That one of them is across the street, directly across the street from a grocery store, and the other one almost shares a parking lot. Now, the first, with the bank across the street, that's on a corner, a street corner, where homeless people frequent. The homeless people can see a person leaving the bank, driving right across the street, the grocery store parking lot, and that just makes you a target. It makes you a better target because, you know, you're more likely to have some cash on you if you've just left the bank. You might have been going in and making a deposit. Nobody knows. Whoever it is that's watching you from that corner doesn't know, but he knows that you're more likely to have cash. I've also on that corner seen a homeless woman with two children. They're holding out their signs, and okay, I'm sorry, they're probably weren't homeless, but they were portraying homeless people. And then as I'm walking around, as I'm looking around, I see two men that are with her that are not directly with her, but they're watching around her. This is a potentially dangerous situation for you. And you may think, okay, well, we know this homeless guy. We've seen him here for years. He's not going to harm us. But the reality is, how well do you know him? You may have known him for years, 30 seconds at a time. You know somebody for the length of time relative to the context of that meeting. So if I've known somebody for 20 years at work, I've known him for 8 hours. That's the reality. If you have known people for 2 years and let's say that you're a cashier. Oh, I've known these people for 2 years. No, you haven't. You've known these people for the 1 minute in the same environment, in the same context for 2 years. But really, you've only known them for 1 minute. When they're on their best behavior. You don't know these people. Pay attention to the buildings and what's around. And think about what kind of risk that could pose. So we have a grocery store where you're going to go spend money. We have a bank where you can go get money. And right in between, we have a person who, seemingly in a normal place for someone who's homeless, who's in a vantage point to see you exiting one and entering the other. That's dangerous. Three, I want you to understand that homeless people have nothing to lose. They can be very dangerous. They can be very nice. They might be very nice people. I don't know. But I do know that it's risky to spend time with them or really communicate with them a lot unless you know this person. You may see them every day and they may seem normal. We have one particular individual here who seems very normal. He just seems like a normal guy. He's been out here for several years. And one time, against my better judgment, my wife wanted to go speak to him about some signs that he had up. He was holding up a sign that said, boycott whatever eating establishment. And she wanted to know why, because we eat in that establishment. And she went over and I'm like, just leave him alone. And she was like, no. So I went with her. We parked, she went across the street and asked him, why should I boycott that store or that restaurant? And then he held up another sign that was behind it and he goes like this and he goes up and he pulls out another sign that says, stop asking stupid questions. And then like, well, if you want us to boycott it, she said, what? This is my wife. If you want us to boycott it, is there a reason? Because it seems like a pretty nice restaurant. And he goes, you obviously don't know what a boycott is. And the guy flew off the handle. And he really flew off the handle when I said, okay, thank you for your time. And we started walking across the street and my wife said, God bless you. And this guy went nuts. I thought that I was going to have to hurt him or restrain him or something like that. Fortunately, I didn't. We just got in the car and left. But that was a potentially dangerous situation. And, the same thing when the story that I told you about in the last hint about the woman. Okay, this is a woman. She's, seemingly a person who is vulnerable. And she has little children with her, which makes her even more vulnerable. But what you don't see is the two guys to her left and right that are probably 40, 50 feet away from her, seemingly minding their own business. But they are with her. You can tell they're with her if you observe long enough. You can tell. So if you avoid these three situations, you're going to be much better off. You're going to be much safer, and this will help keep you out of harm's way. I know that people aren't going to do all of these tips, but if you do just one of these tips, you're going to lower your risk quite a bit in your day-to-day life. And it's just not that hard. Okay, guys, I want you all to like, and I want you to comment. I want you to tell me your experiences in these three areas. And I hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll talk to you later. Stay safe. It doesn't matter who wins the election in November 5th. I expect there to be some sort of social unrest, especially in the densely populated areas. No matter what the outcome is, half the population is going to be upset. And, given the state of everything else and the frustration that everybody's feeling, I don't see any way that the cities are going to go unscathed. So I'm going to give you 3 tips to help keep you safe. In particular, seniors, we have different needs. We have different struggles that we have to go through and different things that we have to do to prepare. So in the first place, if you're in a city and you live in a city, if you have somewhere to go immediately following the election or even, the week of the election, go see family, go camping, go do something else if you can. I live 100 miles away from a city, moved out here maybe 8-10 years ago. So we're going to be well away from any of that that's not for everyone. I get it. Everybody can't live like I do. Some people really enjoy the city. They love the public transportation systems and things like that. I get it. So if you are stuck in the city and you have nowhere else to go, make sure that you have plenty of resources available to you, the things that you need for your family. So, if everything goes bad, we don't know, the power might go out. You may not have access to water. You may not have access to electricity. You may not have a few things for a few days. It just depends. I know for me, when we lived in the city, or we actually lived in the suburbs, some silly little thing would happen. It wasn't anywhere near my house, but the power went out and the water went out, and it stayed out. One time, my wife and I, we were out for several days because of an ice storm, and we had no power, we had no water, we had no nothing. But we did have a bathtub full of water so that we could flush. The power had jittered a little bit, and said that that's our key. The second that happens, if we still have water and availability of water, there's still pressure, we fill the bathtub so that we can have something for flushing. And we also, now we keep many of those big 5-gallon bubbles of water. We had a Great Dane at the time. And since there was no electricity and it was an ice storm, it was in the middle of winter, we had to put him in one of my I had a big dog workout shirt, and he didn't want to take it off after we were done with the few days that we went without electricity. So we had the ability to cook in the house and everything else because we have gear for this. We're avid outdoors people, so we had camping gear. We actually had a fireplace in that particular apartment, and we made it quite nicely. We all three, my wife, me, and my Great Dane, we all just hunkered down right there in front of the fireplace, and that's where we slept, and we did quite well. Okay, so things that you want to keep with you in your house in the first place. Your let's say you can't get out of the city. I get it. Have food necessary for at least a couple weeks for everybody in the house. Things that you can put together with very little preparation. If you don't have electricity, I said, you don't have running water. You have the water that you have stored up, or saved back, and that's good. That's fine. So you're going to have food. You want to have all your prescriptions filled. And I would do that prior to the November 5th election. You want to have all of your hygiene products for at least a couple of weeks. There's no reason not to. Pet foods, pet necessities, anything that you're going to need for your animals, you've got to have that. I would say shaving stuff, but that doesn't matter. Obviously, I don't care about that. I prefer to have to have my beard this length. But all of the things that you're going to need to sustain your lives and be relatively comfortable. It's going to be November, depending on where you are. It's going to be cold. Could be cold, so you're going to want to make sure that that you have plenty of like blankets to just wrap around yourself and things like that. You can stay warm. You can stay warm without fire, without anything. But you want to keep your shelter. Okay. Flashlights. You want to keep flashlights. You want to keep spare batteries for everything that needs batteries. You want to have a small AM/FM radio that runs off of batteries. And to keep stuff charged and to run very small 110 utilities, I keep one of these. I have this in my car all the time, but we have used this several times when we ran out of power. Power went out, and I live out in the middle of nowhere, so my power does go out.
It's kind of routine. It's normal. But this thing has saved me and my family more than once. It has a lathe. It's really just made for jump starting the car. It has a little compressor on it. It has some USB ports on it for charging my phones and things like that. It's a 12 amp hour battery. It'll charge your phone several times without a problem, and it recharges. If I'm not going to say go out to your car, but if you had to and this goes dead, you can actually hook it up to the battery of the car, start the car, and this will charge that way. Or your power comes back on, you plug it into the wall and it charges. So now I want to let you know that I'm going to be doing a few of these before November 5th with additional tips. I want to do it in 3 tip segments because there might be just something in here that you haven't thought about, or maybe it's something that you just forgot, something that you just like, oh man, pet food, I didn't think about that. Or prescriptions, that's a big one, for, I have some prescriptions that I have to take. I don't have a whole lot, but I know that other people do. So keep those on hand. Now, 3rd tip, let's say you're hunkering down in your home. Do not open your door for people. I know that they're going to come to the door. They're going to seem nice. And if you don't know them and trust them very well, you don't let them in. You just pretend you're not there. A lot of bad things can happen when you start letting people in your house or your apartment or your condo. And a lot of these people, they know, they've scoped this out. They've scoped out your areas. They know where the people that have something worth taking live, and they know that you're vulnerable. So, these tips work for everyone, but in particular for the vulnerable, for elders, for seniors, young people, young predators. They just look for opportunities to make a mess. You've seen for the last few years what happened, and most of us remember the Kent State shootings back in 1970, I believe it was. I grew up there, so I remember the shootings, but I also remember all the rioting that led up to there being those shootings, all of that civil unrest. We've seen this after just about every hurricane, after tornadoes, after natural disasters. People will it's just in their nature to do it, to make trouble, to loot, to steal. I don't know why. I mean, they could be putting that energy into helping, but they don't. So, if you got anything out of this video, I hope you like it. I hope you give it a thumbs up. And I'd really like to see in comments what your tips are. What do you want to have for the potential natural disaster? Or in this case, we have, potential civil unrest. I don't know that it's going to happen. I hope it doesn't. But I am a realist. And my instincts tell me that we just need to be ready. I get that some of you are going to have to still drive into the city, even if you don't live in the city. I have friends who actually work in the city that are not going to be able to just take off of work just because there's social unrest. They're going to have to go. And I know they'll be careful. And they'll take different routes than they normally do. They'll take the least populated routes into their place of work. So you should do the same. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I do want to see those comments. So thanks a lot, everyone. That's all I've got for today. Stay safe.